Hi, I'm Ron Paulk with Paul Combs, and this is episode 3 in the making of my mobile woodshop. In episode 1 I talked about the cabinets. I want to use dados, and in each of those dados I want to have a 1/2 inch piece of plywood that'll act as either a shelf or the bottom for a drawer. This will eliminate the necessity of buying lots of expensive drawer glides and also having to figure out a way to lock those drawer glides closed. So the spacing 4 inches apart, 5/8 inch dados with a notch 1 inch back from the front, and this notch will be for me to place a large headed 1/2 inch screw in the bottom of the plywood that will drop into this notch on both sides of the cabinet. That should give me enough to hold them in when I'm in transit. So I'm going to be making a lot of dados, and I didn't want to try to use my Festool track with the router attachment and have to space these, being concerned about keeping them uniform. So I wanted to make this so that I could just go at it, cut all my sides, and just start making these dados and not have to think about spacing and all of that. So what I came up with is a simple little template to make the dado. The template is it was a piece of plywood that I ripped to 8 3/4. That dimension was determined by the 4 inch spacing, so each of these represent that spacing, and then 3/4 of an inch for the slot, and this is for the template guide to ride on in the Festool plunge router. The template guide will then reduce that so it'll be 5/8 when I'm done. And then I put on one edge of the template I took a piece of 3/4 plywood, ripped it down to 5/8, exactly the size of the dado, so that it could drop in the previous dado and aligning the next one perfectly. The only thing I need to do on the first dado of each side is drop the starting dado down to 1 inch above the bottom. This allows me to put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood as a base between the sides, and then the 1/2 inch shelf or drawer that goes in will float about a 1/4 inch above the bottom of the cabinet, so I don't get a lot of friction on that bottom drawer or shelf. So to get that starter dado, which is the critical dado, because I want exact position and square off the bottom, is I just took a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and placed that on the bottom, and then the template guide, the jig, goes on tight to that, and then simply screw it on for the first one only. The rest of them I won't need to use the screws, but the first one I want to make sure that the dado is placed precisely. And so after that's done, just a quick check on the bottom to make sure that the guide is up tight to that scrap of plywood, and that plywood's tight to the bottom of the cabinet. And then take the router. It's preset to 3/8 depth, which is halfway through the 3/4 side, and then simply just make 2 passes forward and back with a 1/2 inch upcut spiral bit. Cuts it real quick. But the beauty of this is that now I don't have to think about it. Whether the cabinets are wider or narrower, I can use this template with just slight adjustment. To make things as simple as possible, and I didn't want to make left-handed and right-handed sides, and with that little notch needing to be in the front, I went ahead and made the template so that it create the notch on both ends. And what that allows me to do is use the cabinet sides are non-handed. So this can be the front, or I can turn it around, the other side can be the front. So right and left are identical. And one other note, sometimes plywood will be a bit cupped, and I didn't want to take the time with so many to do to have to clamp them down to hold them flat. So with using this jig and the router on top of it, just a little body weight presses it down so that I get the uniform 3/8 of an inch depth through the whole cut. To assemble the cabinets, I used a stapler to pin the cabinet parts together temporarily instead of using clamps. And then I was able to take my screw gun, pre-drill the holes, and then use screws to hold the cabinet together permanently. I find this method saves a lot of time and works as effectively as clamps do.
Show in Kent last month, wounding 12 people. Coming up at 11:15, County Prosecutor Dan Satterberg.
We've seen a sudden spike in the violence. We've been driving around, it seemed fairly relaxed, but in the last hour, things have changed dramatically.
Rebels claim to have most of Tripoli under control, but pro-Gaddafi fighters have cut off the road to the airport, and they're still trying to reach his compound. Stay connected with 90.3 Cairo FM and mynorthwest.com.
Crossing Burbank now continues
On 97.3 Cairo FM.
CNN's Matthew Chance was one of the journalists being held in the Rixos Hotel. Says that when the word came down that Muammar Gaddafi had fled, the guards just put down their guns and then
was there a period of time in Iraq? I mean, famously they pulled the statue down. You know, we were sort of greeted as.
And the thing that turned it sour in Iraq is true. I mean, initially there were lots of people were singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead." They didn't like Saddam, but then when the looting started and on orders, didn't go in a taxi, went in this beat-up old car that they had, and to lie below the windows so they could.
Well, I know that's what they say, but I'm curious to find out what the influence of people shooting each other go with a gun, and I'm of them being happy and celebratory. Then you get into a little bit of the mead of the strong waters, and then maybe you get mad, and then maybe you're more inclined to have a gun.
Let me ask you this: if you're in Libya now,
/Flex.
I'm Ursula Boytine in the 97.3 Cairo Afternoon Center. No snoozing at this Everett School Board meeting. At 9:57, I'll tell you more last night.
In this disturbing video, 36-year-old Jessica Bakley can be seen pirating, and viewers contacting authorities in Anchorage who investigated and charged her with child abuse.
The jury found the defendant Jessica Bakley guilty.
The prosecution continued.
So that's episode 3. Next, in episode 4, I'll be showing you the progress inside the truck and how the cabinets are coming together. Thank you.